Matt Lenihan for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and our Kings. We're here, Gareth A. Davies. Gareth, it's been a whirlwind of a sort of couple of weeks. We've seen
It has.
a Riyadh season show where Zerdo Ramirez defeated Chris Smith. There was a mega event on Netflix. Jake Paul defeating Mike Tyson. We'll come on to that. But I want to start somewhere else. Call of the Warrior, your new book that's come out. An incredible book. A lot of hard work and effort's gone into it. Just talk to us about how pleased you are with the initial sort of launch of it, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it has been a lot of work. It was 5 years' work writing it with Sonia Jasinski taking the photographs, and we got to the end, 256 pages, black and white. It's a really heavy book. It's like a newborn baby to me, and I don't want to kind of scratch at any editions. I did a second book signing last night. Signed another 150 books that have gone out. It is going out to Dana White and Donald Trump, John Jones, Conor McGregor, and others as well, which is amazing. It's going to all the boxers in the book, all 29 of them. The Hearns, the Arams, the Warrens. Frank's got his already. Katie Taylor's got hers. Mike Tyson's got a copy. I gave him a copy in Dallas, Texas.
I've seen that.
What it is. I mean, in concept, it's lifestyle photographs of a lot of the boxers. 29 of them. excuse me, 28 of them. Boxers, promoters, trainers. From Eddie and Chapo Reynoso, Don Chapo Reynoso, the trainers of Canelo, to Ben Davison, AJ, Fury, Usyk, Devin Haney, Tio Lopez, Ryan Garcia, to name but a few. Joe Calzaghe writes the foreword, and there's an essay on him. There is meant to be a volume 2, and it might be Life of the Warriors rather than Call of the Warriors. There's a volume 2 in production now. And I'd like to get the likes of George Foreman and Mike Tyson and maybe even Donald Trump in there as a fight fan, Dana White, Conor McGregor, and just do longer essays and deeper shoots with them. That's the idea at the moment anyway. But very proud of the first work. It's flying out. Lots of people are buying it for Christmas for their loved ones. Literally getting loads of contacts day by day. Say it's a 2-kilo book, so signing it. Well, as I said, I did about 140 of them last night, with all of them with to the boxers themselves as well, who haven't got it yet. Some personal messages. So it's a very, very fulfilling thing. Something I didn't think I would find so rewarding. And I've just tried to put all my experience and spiritual stuff, emotional stuff, observations over the last 3 decades into a lot of the essays. And I do feel very proud of it. I'm so glad that's my first book, that it's a big, heavy tome that sits on a coffee table.
Absolutely. Look, we'll put a link in the YouTube description for anyone who wants to purchase it. We'll do that for you. Incredible bit of work that's gone on there. Right. In terms of what's gone on, what's happened, let's start with the main talking point of the last couple of weeks. Jake Paul beat a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. There was a lot of hype surrounding it. I saw your footage from the content you had there, the pictures. Mike, I think, even uploaded a picture, and you were on his Instagram. And even my son, he's not big on boxing, says, I need to see Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. So the father in me goes, wonderful, it's brought you to this event. He then watched Taylor Serrano, and then he watched the event, and I said, what have you learned? And he went, Mike Tyson's old, isn't he, Dad? I went, he sadly is. But at 58, he did 8 rounds. I suppose respect to him for doing that with a young man. What's your overall takeaway from the event?
Well, the event itself, the fight week, excuse me, was extraordinary. That's reflected in the figures of 108 million people they believe watched it. Netflix, 65 initially, 50 million watching the women's event. And I take it that they've, excuse me, calculated 1.5 on households, maybe 1.5 people watching it on average, rather than just going for 2. They're extraordinary numbers. I mean, they're stellar numbers. They're numbers that we haven't seen perhaps since there were 3 channels and Muhammad Ali was in action. Something of that ilk. The takeaway was we were all seduced by the clips of Mike Tyson that he might be able to do something. It was in Dallas, and there's lots of conspiracy theories about how JFK was assassinated. And now we're having as many conspiracy theories about what was meant to happen in this fight. From a clip I saw this morning where Mike Tyson doesn't throw a right hook when he's in position to throw it. I don't know if you've seen that. I think Mike did the best he could. He obviously had the right knee strapped. When he walked into the arena, it was a very, very deep nostalgic moment for many generations who know this transformative human being. And I think Mike's someone we actually treasure as a human being because of his transformation. Jake Paul played the dick all week, played the heel brilliantly. He will change, I think, as well in the next 5 years. I know that behind the scenes, he's doing a lot of meaningful things with young people. I've spoken to his people about that. It's very interesting. Netflix getting involved won't be the last time, I think. It wouldn't surprise me to see them get into football at some point. Association football, that is. Overall, it was a resounding success. Like you say, Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano on the undercard. Controversial, but brilliant. The cut eye was extraordinary, like a pair of lips that opened up on her eyelid, on Amanda's eyelid. I've just been speaking to Katie's people this morning. I think that trilogy is definitely a possibility, even though Katie turned it down when I spoke to her afterwards. And, you know, Abel Ramos and Mario Barrios produced a Mexican war that will be live long in the memory. Obviously, you felt a bit flat about Tyson wasn't able to produce something more, but he did something for 50 somethings. And my straw poll on it was people were glad he didn't get hurt in the end. And I was glad that he was fine after taking 78 punches. And I don't think we'll see him in a ring again.
Was there a big sigh of relief when that final bell went, when you see him on 2 feet? Because I think after the first round, when he had like a few bursts, you thought, that's okay, let's see if it continues. Then you realize quite quickly, actually, this is what it actually is when you use your head, you use common sense, you don't let the emotion, the pageantry of the whole event take over. It sort of reality sets in. And I mean, Jake Paul, you look and he says, look, I didn't want to, hurt someone kind of thing. And when you look at it, was there a big relief from your part? We know what Mike means to boxing. You didn't want to see any accidents or anything bad happen in that fight, like at all.
But also for the pride of that warrior, you wanted to see him finish the 8 rounds. You didn't want to see Mike
absolutely
capitulated by Jake Paul. Yeah, maybe Jake did hang back, but he also didn't want to get caught by Mike either. Mike did tire during the event. He did get exhausted. It probably was hard to get through to the end. That knee was strapped, which stopped his mobility. I think he's obviously got an injury there. He wouldn't have worn it otherwise.
He said though, didn't he? He said, look, no excuses. He goes, why am I going to say anything about that? And I thought, nice, refreshing kind of thing.
Yeah, I think what it became in the end was a nostalgia event. You know, people always have views on things. If Jake Paul had knocked him out, it would have been a lose-lose for Jake Paul because he'd have been thrown to the wolves. What was he doing knocking out a 58-year-old man? If Mike Tyson had knocked out Jake Paul, people would be going, you see, who does he think he is? He's in against a 58-year-old and he still managed to knock him out. I'd picked Jake Paul by decision. That was my head, based on age and what this is. But my heart wanted him to knock Jake Paul the fuck out. And I told Jake that. And I asked Mike about that, So I think they both played their parts in it. It was, like you say, pageantry is a very good word for it. And with 2 fantastic fights on the undercard, the numbers they brought to the sport, the numbers they brought to Netflix, I think there was something like 12 crews filmed this whole thing. It's extraordinary, really. It was amazing to be a part of it.
Because this fight got labelled, this last thing on this one before we touch on Kate Taylor in a second, because it got labelled a professional bout and then you saw the rules with the gloves and then the 2-minute rounds, would there have been less criticism towards Jake if this would have been labelled an exhibition coming in, like Floyd Mayweather's done over the past couple of years. He doesn't wear head guards. They come in, but it's labelled an exhibition. You know when Floyd's fighting Deji what it is. If they'd have done that, because obviously Jake's getting a lot of criticism, which he's not bothered about, and quite rightly so. He knows what he's doing business wise, calling out Canelo and everyone like that. But would he have received less criticism saying having an exhibition rather than a pro fight where it's on someone's record?
Yeah, that might have helped the optics of the event, and it might have helped. I think people are going to criticise Jake Paul no matter what. I think that's what's going to happen, because I think people are looking. People are looking for him to fail. The high-profile people, the Tony Bellews, obviously, who was there at the press conference, who I spoke to afterwards, interviewed for Talk Sport. Obviously, they're critiquing it, but they want the Jake Paul fights as well.
I want to see that fight.
No, I don't.
Bellew and Jake Paul, let that happen.
I don't think it's. What does it do? What does it do?
I tell you what, I'd just be extremely excited to see a former fighter, a former world champion who would be in reasonable shape, get in shape against Jake Paul, who wants these big fights. I know he's playing the game, but when you continuously saying the name Canelo, whether you actually mean it or want it or not,
he's going to have to wait until Canelo's 42 and hasn't fought for 4 years to do that. But I think he's more likely to face a Conor McGregor, a rematch with Tommy Fury, KSI, and then maybe and keep it going. And I think he's genuine about trying to box in the Olympics, by the way. And I think he'd be a star at the Olympics. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he's going to win a gold medal, but I think he'll be a star of the games. And it's part of the news story, the narrative. And I think LA 2028 would love that. They would love it,
Be good.
He's going to guarantee eyeballs. I think a Froch and a Bellew fight. I think Jake Paul, if they're the kind of fights in the middle of the big fights, then maybe. But I just don't see him taking those fights. I see him more likely to face a Ryan Garcia, who's probably a bit small, actually. But, I'd see... Well, Daniel Dubois even called him out, I mean,
what is going on?
What's going on is everybody is seeing the numbers that he brings to it. He is a resounding success story. He's got courage and cojones in droves. And whatever anyone says, and, you've always got people saying, criticizing his hijacking, if you like, of the platform of boxing. It's bringing young people to the sport. I'm so pleased he's doing our sport rather than another sport. I could see him in a boxing match against a John Jones, for example, as well. Big events. I mean, it's great for Froch and Bellew to make themselves relevant by shouting at him and all those kind of things. And if he wants to take those fights, he will. But he's the golden goose right now. Mike Tyson made himself the AAA+++ side of it because he's Mike Tyson. Mm-hmm. But Jake Paul has become very, very big. I mean, it was fun to be around him. I get on very well with him and his brother Logan. I interviewed him afterwards as well. I think they're a breath of fresh air. They will eventually mature, Matt. Mm-hmm. Lifesaver. They will eventually mature and they will become very significant figures in what they do meaningfully for young people, in my view.
Yeah, I'm going to say I've spoke to both. They've always been personable and decent when I've had the chance. Look, I think what was definitely worth staying up for in terms of the event, Taylor and Serrano, we spoke about it and touched on it before. Let's delve into it now. What a fight. Now, from where I was sat at home, not ringside, it was one of them where I got to the end and went, a point either way. I'm quite happy with that. Wasn't sure on the head, but I actually think, the fights, Katie's been more guilty of it. I thought that was maybe just the stances and the styles of an orthodox and southpaw
Completely agree.
Rather in the Chantel fight, I probably felt there was more of a cause in that fight to take a point than there was in this one. So I was a bit conflicted. But what did you make of it and the outcome of it?
Excuse me 1 second. I'm just going to plug my phone in. I thought Sorry, in the middle of the interview.
No problem.
I'll just call you live to buy myself some time. There we go. I mean, the eye cut was horrendous. I thought it was going to be stopped in the 6th round. It really shocked me, but it wasn't pouring blood. So a capillary hadn't opened, and maybe that was the only reason. I think Texas clearly have some very lax refs and ringside physicians. So I was very surprised by that. I had, and I've told Katie's team this, I had Amanda Serrano winning by 1 or 2 rounds, 96-94. I thought she won it, but it was a very, very close fight. The fact it was 95-94 on all 3 judges' cards, but they had it 6 rounds to 4 to Katie. It was a very close fight again. My understanding is there probably will be a trilogy, even though Katie turned that down afterwards. It was an amazing spectacle. And for women's boxing, 50 million people watched it.
Yeah.
So it's extraordinary.
That's where I feel like when we talk about Jake Paul and all the other stuff that goes on it with the Mike Tysons, we really need to say he's probably, and I think he said it, his biggest achievement. When you look at the accolades of an Amanda Serrano, he's guaranteed 7 figures now on multiple occasions, and Katie Taylor, by the way, now as well. And to have all them eyeballs on that fight, like I said, my son watched that fight, thoroughly enjoyed it. Just touching on the cut. So when I was watching it from ringside, the doctor physician just goes, "Do you want to continue?" And I just thought, well, it's not. You can't give it her choice. She's going to say yes. The fold. I think in many a fight that gets stopped.
I've not seen cuts like that go on in men's boxing, and I can't remember a cut as bad on a woman.
Fury Wallen, was that the one where it was like, that's a close
maybe,
one?
but maybe they were giving her the benefit of the doubt. They wanted to know if she wanted to carry on. But look what happened in the end.
I know, thank God
it didn't damage her irreparably. It's going to take some serious stitches to get that right again. And I thought Amanda was very generous afterwards because she felt that she'd won, and then she was very upset by the decision, and felt that Katie had gone in deliberately with her head. I don't think she did. I think it's the way she fights. And it was that southpaw orthodox clash. Katie charges in and throws 3 or 4 punches and holds, doesn't she? And the heads came dangerously together many times during the fight. I thought the ref was right to deduct a point, though, at that point as well. And I think it was the 6th round, 6th or 7th. But Amanda retracted those comments later on as well and said, you know what, I'm not going to, I don't think she's a cheat with her head. But as I said, what I'd like to see is those 2 fighting again on the undercard of Jake Paul's next massive fight, so we get the full trilogy. Because both fights were close enough to demand a trilogy, in my view.
Either Serrano, Taylor, Cameron, all them fights that have been just brilliant to watch. I'm down for all them.
And I was with Alicia Baumgardner the next day, and I think she's a great opponent for Katie as well, by the way.
Yes.
Really good style matchup.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose it depends on Katie now. I think what she's 37, 38, what she wants to do and
Sandy
what her
Ryan,
motivations are. Yeah. There's plenty out there. There's a couple more from me. Yesterday, a little explosive press conference. Now, I spoke to Darren Till a few days before this fight was announced, and he said absolutely nothing about it. But he mentioned a lot of the similar things about, look, I don't fear any boxers. I walk into the room and I know what I could do to them. And a lot of the same sort of similar lines came out. What did you make of the press conference? This is one of the types of crossover fights that where I look and think, even I think Calla alluded to it, even for the people who don't like the misfit stuff, the general stuff, maybe an influencer fight, this is one that you can get behind because Tommy is the professional boxer. Darren is a legitimate MMA fighter. This is going to be fun, isn't it?
Oh, it is. And obviously you've got John Fury and Darren Till, and it all exploded yesterday. I thought it was calling him pig eyes, and Darren Till going, shut up, little John, and all this. It was bound to explode. It's done massive numbers. Darren Till saying if he's not ahead in the fight, he's going to kick him in the head. I hope that doesn't happen. But he's a brilliant promoter of fighting. That fight really, it was really lit. When I saw it, I just said, I think I'm looking forward to the build up. It's going to be a fun fight. And like you say, it's got the right ingredients. It's good promotion by Calla and Nisa Sauerland. I think they've done a good job getting this over the line. I understand that Darren Till might have been fighting someone else on another promotion. That may still happen. I won't reveal who that is right now. But yeah, it's going to be very explosive. I mean, Fight Week is going to be unbelievable for that. I mean, where are they putting it on? Is it Co-op Live or?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's good. So it will get a big audience. I expect to be there February the 18th, isn't it?
I think
2025.
I can't remember.
18th of February, 16th, something like that. Or is it January? No, it's February. Really looking forward to it.
January 18th.
Yeah.
January the 18th, which is good. It's nice after Christmas you come back and there'll be a big show to look forward to.
Absolutely. Yeah,
That's the
it'll
good
be
thing about
amazing. It will be amazing. Yeah.
Last one from me. In an interview done with IFL TV, Coogan and Chris Eubank Jr. chopped it up. I had an exclusive. One of the takeaways from that was Chris's sort of openness to wanting to reconcile with his father, who's been a part of his obviously personal life and boxing career for the most part of it. Obviously, the last few years they broke away, and he mentioned the Conor Benn fight and said, "Look, I'm going to text him around that fight and want him to be a part of it." How amazing would it be if that fight happened and we see Nigel walk out with Conor and you see Chris Eubank Senior with Junior again? You know, like him, love him. That I think it's. What did you make of it?
I'm really pleased to see Chris want to reconcile with with Pops. That's really good with Eubank Senior. I think the fight will happen. We're still waiting. We've got, what have we got? Another week before UKAD's appeal, the suspension lifted on Conor Benn. Whether we get that or not, I don't know. We don't know at the moment. I wish him all the best with it. I think it is still a really, if it's actually, it's a bigger fight now. I do want to see it. It's a real stretch for Conor Benn to fight Chris Eubank at middleweight. A stretch for Chris to, I think, to boil down as well to middleweight. I think he's, what is he, 35 now? It gets genuinely harder for these guys as the body thickens up. But it's a big event for Britain in 2025. I think Riyadh season are behind it. I think people like Spencer Brown are behind it happening. You know, obviously, Chris is his own man independently, but with a relationship, an association with Boxer and Ben Shalom and Sky. Conor is still very much with Eddie Hearn. I think it's the fight we see next year. They both might need one fight in the meantime, but I really do think we'll see it in the first half of the year at least.
We're approaching next week. I think an unbelievable fight in Sonny Edwards and Galal Yafai. I think this is fantastic. The show's labelled Bloodline. I spoke to Sonny a month or two back at his house, and he went in depth in the interview about the rejections for going to certain tournaments, which Galal was able to do. And you could tell that it's more than world titles to him. It's more than anything. There's a real burning desire in him to put this right for everything that's potentially gone on in the amateurs. And Galal's burst onto the scene and he's looked terrific. So how much are you looking forward to this in the lower weights, but it's making a lot of noise?
Well, in many ways, it's equivalent. It's worthy of a world title, but it's the championship of each other. It's one of those fights where that's the belt is the championship of each other.
Mm-hmm.
A long time sparring each other. I'd initially picked Galal Yafai on style. I think Sonny wasn't too happy about it. I think that's what he thinks, but it doesn't matter what I think anyway. But what he's done is he's swung me back the other way in terms of when I think about how skilled Sonny is. It's a really, really good style matchup. I've wavered since I initially picked Galal, but I'm divided. I think I can see Galal winning, but I can see Sonny doing his thing as well. And I think Sonny indicating to me that in all the sparring they've had over all the years, he was the one that's dominated. But I don't think they've sparred for a long time.
No.
And I can't. I'm still probably picking Galal, but I'm happy to be wrong if Sonny wins.
I think that's what makes this a good fight. You can have an argument for both, and you can't say who's right or wrong because it's just that good a fight. Look, Gareth, I appreciate your time. We will catch up soon. A lot of big events coming up, and yeah, as always, appreciate you jumping on. And the link to the book will be in the YouTube description, so I'll put that on.
Thank you, Lifesaver. Lovely to see you as always.
Appreciate it.